Hello there. I'm so glad you're here because I have a double page scrapbook layout for you today that I think you are going to love. But I'm also sharing some, I'm going to call them game changing travel tips for you, from documenting your trip while on vacation, as well as a great journaling tip for when you are ready to scrapbook those memories. I am working on my Alaska vacation album and I've got 12 photos in varied sizes here. So I've already planned this layout out. I didn't want to, didn't want the video to get too long because I've got those tips I'm excited to share with you today. So I know right where I am going with this design, but we've got 3x3s, 4x4s, and some random photo sizes, which I'll show you exactly how I did that in the Print to Size app. We were in Denali National Park. So I've got a photo of us standing in front of the sign, which is always helpful. You've heard me say that before. It's great to capture these shots. There's Denali. And yes, we made the 30% club that day. I'll tell you more about what that is later in the video. But we were just spending the day exploring Denali National Park. Now, this is a 4x6. So I planned it to include these in a flip flap right underneath this spot. So I'll have to be mindful of my embellishing when we get to that point so I don't overlap that and interfere with the flip flaps. But did you know that sheep apparently know exactly when to cross the road? Who knew? It's an actual thing. So I thought that was pretty funny. That is my husband, Mike, there showcasing this hilarious sign randomly at the top of one of the peaks there. And yeah, you got to stop for the sheep to cross at exactly that time. Here are two 3x4, actually 4x3 photos that I have printed together on one 4x6 canvas. So these will all sit in a flip flap right under this one, but I want that photo on top. So I'm going to go ahead and set these aside until we're ready for the flip flap. I want to point out a few things that I considered while placing my photos. You'll see pink flowers in this one here, and then pink flowers in this shot here. There's a little bit there, but not much. It's definitely not the focus. So I intentionally split these photos up. I didn't want all the pink in one spot. We wanted to carry a little bit of that over here. So if I don't add it in my embellishments, at least that color is balanced in the photos and kind of draws your eye over. And you might be wondering, why didn't I make this photo a large photo? Because, this could even be my title. It shows where we are. It's a great photo. Everybody's included in the shot. Sorry, trying to get that in focus. But my title is going to be Denali. I have a big plan over here for my title, and it's actually going to say Denali. So I didn't want this one to be large because it felt kind of repetitive. So that's just a little accent photo rather than a big feature photo. To document these photos, I decided on the Weekend Adventures paper collection here. Now, if you're a regular viewer of my channel, you are no stranger to this. I've already documented lots of memories with this paper. I absolutely love it. So I'm showing you all the patterns here. If you choose the paper pack and sticker sheet, there's actually 12 pieces of pattern paper. I've just got 6 here to show you the different patterns, but you can see how well these are suited for outdoor layouts. And funny story. So all along, I've been calling this the Starry Night Sky paper. I mean, can you see it? If you've got campfire photos, this would be perfect. It looks like a night sky with stars. But my really good friend Bonnie, we were scrapbooking together, and she goes, every time I hear you say that in your videos, I am wondering, do you not see that it is inspired by the traditional camp cookware, like the enamel cookware? And I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I not see that? I think that Bonnie is right. And although it would be perfect for a Starry Night Sky, I do think that that was the intended, design concept behind this paper because it just coordinates with that beautifully. And I thought that that was so funny. So chances are Bonnie's not alone. And there were some of you out there thinking the same thing, like, that's not Starry Night Sky, that's enamel cookware. So I just thought that that was too funny. Let me go ahead and set this aside and bring in my paper layers. I have designed this layout to be a mirror image, so it's one 12x24 canvas, and these are the papers I selected. I'm going to show you a couple variations here in a moment and explain why I opted not to use the other papers. So we're going to use our enamel cookware paper. And then this one, I absolutely love it because it's just such a cool pattern. But we've got a compass on there, footprints. It's perfect for hiking. There's some bear prints, which we did see a bear. I don't have a photo of because honestly, the bear was so far away. I couldn't see it with my, naked eye. Everybody else could. Apparently, I need glasses. But I was looking through the zoom lens of my friend's camera who had a much, farther zoom, and then I could see the bear. So needless to say, I do not have a good photo of the bear, but it was there. So I just love how that plays in. So I'm thinking this little green tree paper across the bottom, and then our blue paper. And we're going to have this paper here, and then this a strip of this black pattern just peeking out a little bit at the top here. So I purposely designed this. As I mentioned, I want to have a great big title up here that says Denali, and I want that to show up. And I've got a fun idea. And needed a light background so it wasn't competing with the pattern paper. So I will fine tune those, make sure they're even when I get them adhered down. So if you bring the photos back in, they are going to be something like this. And I wanted to show you, at first I was thinking the green paper with the trees rather than the blue. I did not even consider the blue. I just thought the trees and the brown paper here with the compass would be perfect until I actually got my photos on there. I started working on this layout while at a retreat, a scrapbooking retreat. So that's why I had time to kind of plan this out. Now I'm leaving this spot open for my journaling, but you can see how beautiful these pop off of that blue background. There's tons of blues in the photos and it really stands out. When I had originally planned it, I was thinking I would use the green down here, but then I noticed my photos just kind of disappeared. I mean, you can already see that one right there. They look much different. And now I could have matted them with maybe a little bit of blue, but it was an unnecessary step because we've already got the white. And again, it pops so much better off of the blue background. So sometimes, we have an idea in our head and then we get it, we start putting it together and it's like, nope, that's not right. And the blue paper was the winner. I'm going to take just a moment to ink up my paper layers with early espresso. And when I do get these adhered down, they will end up overlapping just a bit. So I don't need to ink up all the edges because some of them will be hidden, but definitely want to add a little separation with these. Earlier, I mentioned we joined the 30% club, and prior to this day, I had no idea what that was. But as we rounded the bend, there was Denali in plain sight, and our bus driver said, "Welcome to the 30% club." He then explained only 30% of visitors actually get to see Denali. It's so big that it creates its own weather system, and you often don't see it because it's, hidden in cloud cover. During our 2 weeks in Alaska, we were repeatedly told how fortunate we were due to the weather being perfect or the visibility, the conditions, whatever it may be. Locals kept telling us that we brought our California sunshine with us. So we did indeed feel very lucky. Now, I have used a large alpha die to cut out Denali. This is the Party Banner alphabet set. It's awesome. They are just over 2 inches tall and make quite the statement. This is the Lights and Wonder die set, and I can't resist a good pine tree die, but I am very excited about this one. I know I say that about them all, but wait till you see this one in action. It is gorgeous. So we're going to create a scene with this pine tree die and this mountain die. So these are all layer up, and you can do so many beautiful things with these. So there's a smaller tree border. This creates a mountainscape. This one puts like snowy peaks or just color variables on the mountains. You can create lakes, there's clouds. It is awesome. I can't wait to show you this. So this is part of the Lights of Aurora collection, which is inspired by the Northern Lights. Beautiful. So let me grab a piece of paper. I'm actually going to set this aside and make room for my die cutting machine so I can show you how this works. You will also need some removable low-tack tape. I've got a bunch here. It is the Post-it removable labeling tape brand. That's my favorite. I've got Old Olive. Now it's light and dark. I want the dark side showing, so make sure that's facing up. We're going to line our trees up at the left side of the paper. I'm going to tack that down into place and then we'll run this through our die cutting machine. Now, this is a very intricate die. There's a lot of little detail in there. So, to make it easier on yourself, I recommend running it through 2 times to get those bits and pieces to fall freely, and you won't have to work too hard to get a nice clean cut. You can see how it does not cut the bottom, so we can line this up and create a continuous pattern. Go ahead and line it up the best you can and then add your tape. And I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine going forward. And then again, just to make it easier on yourself, back it up and go back through one more time. Let's see how we did. This is so cool. I just love it. I purposely left a little bit on the bottom so I could tuck that behind my pattern paper. And I like to kind of tap my die on the table just to knock out as much as I can. And then I'm going to snip the edges on the right and left just to get that a very, clean cut. I didn't go all the way to the edge. So isn't that cool? Now we have a few bits and pieces. You can kind of flick it with your finger, knock those out. This is the take your pick tool. You can change the heads. So there is a brush tip here for cleaning out your dies. It comes with this foam piece and you just run it over like this. It is so easy. So you can do this to your paper pieces gently, but you can also take this same brush to clean out your actual die. You can see all those bits of the olive green paper falling into the foam there. So you'll notice it here. Again, I tap it off first and then just clean all the bits and pieces out with this little brush. I love that this is all on one tool and the heads are interchangeable, but you can always buy a second unit if you don't want to swap them back and forth. Now I need to create my mountain scene. So I'm going to use this one. Now you can use it in this orientation. So this is what the top of your mountain range looks like. And that is the way it is intended to go if you are using the layering die here. So you can see that the shapes coordinate with each other. You can alternatively flip this over for a different mountain range, but just know that this won't coordinate with it if you do that. So just be mindful. If you want to use this, make sure you are cutting it with the right, facing the right direction. So gray granite, I'm going to go ahead and repeat the process. I will reuse those little post-it removable bits of tape. I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine 2 times to complete the mountainscape. I have repeated the process 2 times so we can go all the way across both of our layouts. Isn't that super cool? I have made that paper just over 3 inches long to get that height. And let's go ahead and tuck that in, and then we can bring in our beautiful old olive row of trees. Look at that detail. I really, really love it. Now, I made mine, exact replica. If that bothers you, you could kind of start off the paper more to change up the pattern a little bit. But by the time I get the title and the photos and everything on there, you won't be able to see that any repetitive pattern going across. I don't know if I want to add the detail layer. I think I might stop at just the mountain and the tree layer. So again, you could add the details, you could add the smaller row of trees, you could really get very intricate with this, but sometimes less is more and I don't want it to overwhelm my title. So let me go ahead and ink up the edges. I'm bringing in my all-purpose mat, or you can use a glass mat, and the coordinating gray granite ink and a blending brush. So I'm going to blot this off. I just want a soft glow of color. I love doing this to my die cuts. It just kind of gives them a little bit of extra something, something, makes them look more dimensional. So another thing you could do is you could use this as a stencil. If you wanted to create a stenciled ink layered background on your paper, this would be such a cool way to achieve that. So what I mean by stenciling is just like, let's say that's my white cardstock and you would stencil it and get the outline on the paper. Now I have a bunch of embellishments from Weekend Adventures. I've got some stickers. This is from the sticker sheet. So is this little circle here that says, "What a view." And then I have a bunch of punch outs. This one is from one of the projects in the workshop. It says nature walk. We're definitely on a nature walk. Most of those are from the collection, although I have thrown in a few things from my stash. So I also have this log round from Textured Timber. That is a retired set. And then I have a couple different trees. So these little pencil pine type trees are from Frosted Forest. You may have that in your collection. It is currently retired, but I wanted to show it to you to remind you in case you have it. And then these are the scenic adventure trees, and there's mountains and a little tree border on here as well. I actually think these trees coordinate with the Lights of Aurora trees a little bit better than the frosted forest, but they would both work beautifully. So I'm just trying to figure out where to place my embellishments here. I would prefer this set of trees on the left edge, but nope, neither one of these photos is going to work because of where the person is positioned in the picture. So that's okay. We'll just move on. I do have some ink on the background there that I do want to camouflage anyway. Now, I have this tiny little flower die. So what I've done is I've cut that out of white paper. You can see just like the trees, it doesn't cut the bottom. I went ahead and made myself a row, and now we are going to color these. I've got Berry Burst and Melon Mambo, and I think Berry Burst is a better match for those flowers. So let's go ahead and bring in our all-purpose mat and add some color. So I'm going to use the brush tip of my Berry Burst marker and very quickly add color. Now these flowers are from this Scenic Adventure set. I do think these two sets complement each other very well. The Scenic Adventures along with the Lights and Wonders. Yeah, good stuff. Now I'm taking my old olive marker and coloring in the grass. I have the light version, so I cut the tree border out of the dark side of old olive. So I'm using the light side of the marker, so we'll have some contrast and it will stand out against that darker background. What if we did add a little blending with the darker? Nope, too dark. We're going to stop there before we ruin it. Let me bring this back into frame here. And oh, that's cute. I like that. We could put it here. We could put it up there. You know what? I think I like it up there. This really brings in all of those pink flowers that we saw all along the road in Denali. I think it's the perfect embellishment. Doesn't that look so good? Now, from that same scenic adventures, I did a smaller set of flowers, and this little mountain has now become a rock. So when you pair it with the bigger mountains, you can use this as just a little rock element, but it could also be a mountain range itself, depending on the scale. So I think that looks pretty cool. I don't know about this log ground here. I did find this tag. It says Wander, Wonder, Repeat. And I kind of like that. That is a sticker from the sticker sheet. Nope, I don't think we're going to use the log ground. Maybe we want to tilt this out. Yeah, I like that. I'm still trying to figure out the perfect placement for this little embellishment. And then you'll notice I moved the flowers. I've got them here. They were here and I've just bumped them over. I am ready to work on my journaling for this layout. So I have designated this little 3 by 3 journaling square for my story. And I haven't adhered anything down because sometimes when I start writing my story, I realize I need a lot more space. So I could bump these photos out and then have a much larger space to add the story. So this has journaling lines, which is great for handwriting. And you hear us talking all the time how it's important to add your handwriting. I do have pretty small writing, but not as small as if I were to type it up on a computer and print it out. So if I need more room, this would be quite a bit of space to type this story. So I'm not sure we're going to actually use that yet, but I want to talk to you about different journaling options and things you can do to really not or help you not forget those details. Let me move this to the side here. I highly recommend you take notes while you are traveling. There's so many different ways to do that. You could use a simple traveler's notebook. This is a traveler's notebook size that you can order on Amazon. This one has lines. Sometimes you can see this one's a little bit bigger. This is one, it's like a garden journal that I add just little pictures, kind of almost like a junk journal from my garden, just different things that I work on when I feel inspired to add it. This is a fall layout. But this is blank, and you could create kind of a traveler's notebook to document your stories in. I don't, I love the way this looks, and I've tried it a few times while on my trip, but I don't like to take a lot of supplies because we pack very light. We try to pack in a carry-on. So when you end up bringing things to kind of scrapbook and create a traveler's notebook, it can become kind of hard to, pack the things that you want. So just having a simple pen and paper like this is a super effective way, very easy. You can jot down your notes as the things happen because we remember the big events like, yes, we were in Denali, But what about the little details? Some of the funny things that happened, or the conversations during the day, the things we saw, down to the smallest little creature darting across the road, different things like that. So, my friend Bonnie, who plans all of our annual trips, she does an amazing job. I'm so grateful for her. She started creating a book after our very first trip when I was texting her a million times, what was the name of that lake? What was the name of that hike? And we'd have to Google it and look it up because we couldn't remember the little details. She started creating one of these travel itinerary books. She prints it out and has it bound, and it's in chronological order. And not only do we have, our plane tickets are in here, our hotel confirmations, everything we need is right here in this book. But she also includes spots like this is a Glacier Bay boat tour, which, plot twist, it never happened. They canceled it on us and we had to pivot, and we ended up having a wonderful day. We booked our own boat tour with a private company, and it ended up being so much better. And I journaled about that. I journaled how we woke up early to catch our boat and found a note on our door stating it was canceled, and just the things how we jumped into action and Bonnie found something much better. So, just little notes here about the lodge. So, this is a great idea, very easy to document. But what happened is I kind of stopped writing. So, I may not have had a pen, or maybe we were traveling and it was hard to write because it was bumpy. I do have pretty severe arthritis in my hands, so sometimes writing isn't a good option for me. If my hands are hurting that day, writing can be painful. So I wasn't really good about keeping up with the writing. And I noticed when I switched to my notes app on my phone, I recorded a lot more information and in more detail. Now, I do this on my iPhone, but I'm going to show you on my iPad because I'm filming. But the Notes app looks like this one here, and it comes on the Apple products. I'm sure the Android has its own version. It's just an app for taking notes. So I have all my notes here. We're already in the Alaska notebook. Let me turn off that overhead light so we don't have a glare. Much better. So I have titled this note Alaska 2023, and I have separated each entry by the date. Day by day, at the end of the day, I do a brain dump or even the next morning, but I recommend you do that daily to really recall the details. So if you want, you could make these bigger. So by highlighting that and then click the font up there, the A, and you can click title and it makes it larger. So that it just is a little bit more visually appealing. I obviously didn't do that, but I want to show you, you can have that option. So it's very easy to see between the days. So I just start with day one. We left on July 14th, and it's short. It just talks about, how we met the Cottons in San Francisco and we got there at the same time and flew to Juneau. So you can see here, Juneau is misspelled, and that's because I was auto dictating it. And sometimes it just does that, but that's okay because it's enough to, we don't need to worry about spelling or punctuation. This is a brain dump. We can fix it when we go to document our layouts, right? So we're just going to go down. Denali was at the latter half of the trip. It was at the very end. So we are going to just scroll down. And you can see some days there's a lot. And again, I just auto dictate. You can type, you can text it. But again, it's just so easy to just hit that little microphone button and start talking and get all your, thoughts and comments down onto into the Notes app. So what I love about this is it's very easy to document. We remember, oh yeah, we went to Denali, that was a big deal, but maybe you don't remember the tiny little details, like that cup of coffee that you were so grateful to find at the end of a long day, or the tiniest little random creature that darted out in the road in front of you. Maybe you didn't get a photo of it, so you might forget. So I like to include all of those little details. And uh, for example, there was a day I didn't get a photo of it, but we went on a wildlife cruise and we were in a boat, like a small speedboat type fishing boat. And there happened to be a group of kayakers. And it was the funniest thing because this very enthusiastic group of young sea lions came very excitedly towards our boat. But then they spotted the kayakers and they turned around and it looked like a full on charge. So I don't think that they were in any danger, but the the tourists on this kayak tour, they panicked. They were scared and they start paddling as fast as they can. And we're just watching from the sidelines because, it was just fun to watch these sea lions. And they're panicking, and the guide of the kayak tour is trying hard to get ahead of them and even smack the paddle on the front of their boat. And he's like, stop paddling, just hold still. So, anyway, it was hilarious. Of course, I'm sure they were terrified, poor people, but we thought it was funny watching from the sidelines. So, here's my Denali entry here. So all I have to do is now I have my notes. So if I simply want to write up my caption for my page, I can do that. But there's another little trick we can do using Chat GPT or any other AI app. So again, I didn't really write this in a manner that I would want on my scrapbook page. It's just a brain dump. It's just, regurgitating all my thoughts from the day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that. I've highlighted it. We're going to hit copy. And I'm going to go over to my computer, open up ChatGPT, and paste it into it. So let's go ahead and do that. Here I am in ChatGPT. So this is the free version. I do not have a paid account. So it says ready when you are, ask anything. So I had copied that from my iPad. So we're simply going to paste that brain dump into Chat GPT. So I'm going to just look and see what I wrote here because there's certain things I might not want included on this page. For example, this last line, we had a dinner at a fancy restaurant across from our lodge. That doesn't pertain to these photos. I actually have photos of that will be on a separate layout. So I am omitting it. So let me just look through here and make sure I have everything I need. Okay, so this looks pretty good, and I'm just going to jump right up here at the beginning of my paragraph, and I'm going to say, polish this journal entry for my scrapbook layout. So you can layout, I can spell layout. Okay, so that's all we need to do. Now let's go ahead and just hit the arrow and let it work its magic. So you may like it, you may not like it. Sometimes it's spot on, sometimes it doesn't sound like how I would talk, but it gives you, a starting point. You can ask it too. Hey, I want this to be more humorous, or I want this to be more sentimental, and it will, rewrite it in the tone that you would like. So let's see how it did. We spent the day exploring the breathtaking Denali National Park. To enter, you hop on a bus that takes you deep into the park. It's a hop-on, hop-off system, so you can stop and stretch your legs whenever you like. We rode all the way to the last stop and then decided to walk back for a while, soaking in the scenery. Wildlife was a bit scarce that day, but we did catch sight of a moose and, way off in the distance, a bear. We learned something interesting too. The bears here are much smaller than we imagined. Since food is limited, their main diet consists of rabbits. So basically, other bears are big and fat because they're engorging on salmon. We don't really have a lot of salmon here in the national park, so these bears are smaller. That was a side note. That's not in my journaling. Then it goes on to say the highlight of the day was joining the 30% club. Only about 30% of visitors actually get to see the mountain since it creates its own weather system and is often hidden in the clouds. We felt so lucky that Denali revealed itself to us. It was truly a sight to remember. So that's what ChatGPT suggested. And you know what? I really like it. I think it's perfect. I don't really think that anything was left out. So I'm going to copy and paste this into I'm going to type it up, I think, because there's no way I can include that. And so I'm opening up my pages. You may have any word processing document. So let's go ahead and open up a new document. We're just going to have a blank document, and then I'm going to drop in a text box. So I go up top to insert and then drop in a text box. Now we need to make it a certain size. So I'm clicking arrange. And you can drag this, you can drag it and make it any size you want. But under arrange, let's say we just want this to be 3 by 3. Let's try to make it fit that square space to see if that will work. I can already tell you, I don't think it's going to. So we're going to paste our journaling into the 3 by 3 square. Now, this is a size 11 font. We could, or excuse me, a size 12 font. We could make it smaller. I don't really like to go, down um, below 10 because then it just is getting too small to read. But I can tell you, see, I still can't fit it into this. So I either need to make my journaling smaller by editing some things out, or making my journaling block larger. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then we could put it onto the scrapbook layout. I have promised to show how to print on the Epson PictureMate 400. So this is my main photo printer, and what I love about it is it prints in great quality, but it's small and portable, so I take it to retreats. Oh, well, I just got back from a retreat. We went to Colorado for a team retreat, and Jama hosted. This is Jama Malmy. I know you guys watch her channel. And then this is another friend, Tanya, who has Tanya Scraptastic Creations here on YouTube. But we went out to dinner and there was a photo booth, so we were being super funny. How's that expression for you? I gotta love it. Those will be fun to scrapbook. So sometimes I just throw extra paper in here. I just packed them in there while packing up. So let's go ahead and turn this on. And this is photo paper, but we are going to print on regular cardstock. So this is a piece of white willow cardstock that I cut down. It doesn't matter how long it is. It just needs to be 4 inches wide. This printer will go up to a 5 by 7. However, I set my journaling on my computer. You can see here, I mean, I got cords everywhere. I changed the paper size to a 4 by 6. So this needs to be 4 inches wide. So we will put this in here and slide the guide over. So when you do that, I don't know if you can see this. Let me kind of zoom in so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So when you put the paper in there, it says 4 by 6 premium semi-gloss paper, which is what this is. That is not going to give us the best quality for printing on cardstock. So you can either confirm or change. I'm going to click the down arrow, click OK for change. We still want a 4 by 6, so the size is right. Click OK. But now we need to choose our paper. So they have all these photo papers here, and it does matter. You want to always enter the paper to match, or the setting to match the paper you're using. I was out of normally I do a premium glossy paper. I was out of that, so this is semi-gloss. But we are going to go all the way up to plain paper and click OK. So now it says paper setup will be changed to the following 4 by 6 plain paper. Again, okay. Now we are ready to print. I'm going to zoom back out here. Now I should add, this is not my primary printer for printing journaling. If I'm at home, I use my big printer for the journaling and save this for photos, but it is great for on the go. So wouldn't you know it, put a little tiny little smudge on the edge there. This printer never does this, and it could be because it got jostled around. I packed this in my carry-on, which I've taken it to lots of retreats and I've never had an issue. I have heard a few horror stories, but I don't pack it in my travel suitcase like my checked bag. I pack it in my carry-on, so it's with me. But perhaps just the going up the plane and everything made it a little bit, leak. I don't know. Normally it doesn't do that. I could print it again. But I think what I'm going to do is just ink up the edges, and I don't think that will really matter. So let's go ahead and trim this down a little bit. Actually, we're going to go with 3 by 4. And then I can ink up the edges in brown and it'll kind of camouflage that. So make sure, just a little side note, make sure you change your photo printer back to your photo paper, because if it's still set on plain paper and you print a photo, even on photo paper, it will be terrible. It will be terrible quality. The setting of the paper really matters. So now we have this, we can just put in our scrap bin, and let's put this on our layout. This little journaling box is so cute, but we'll save it for another project. I'm going to spread those apart, center this one, and then kind of split the difference there. And this will no longer fit there. We definitely have to put it right here. And you know what? I feel like that's not standing out very well. So let's go ahead and mat it on maybe early espresso. I mentioned the bears being small in Denali because they're just primarily eating rabbits. Well, it's not just rabbits, they're eating small game, but mainly they're eating like berries and roots as opposed to the coastal bears eating high fat carnivorous diets like salmon. I took these three clouds from the Lights of Wonder die and I used balmy blue to ink up just a soft glow of color on these clouds and place them in the white space at the top of the layout. I love that the title is big and bold, just like the mountain itself. And of course, all the small little details working together to tell the story. So I would love to hear how you document your vacation memories. I still have to tack that down with a flip flap. Do you use a traveler's notebook? Do you not worry about it until you get home and hope you remember? I'd love to hear your tips and tricks as well. So this is going to sit on the bottom, and then these two are going to go in my 4x6 flip flap, and I'll tuck them in and then it'll flip up and you'll be able to see the additional photos, but this one will be on top. I have one more tip to share with you that I promised earlier. I want to show you how I print this panoramic style photo here. It is 3x6. So I'm going to open up my print to size app. You can see that's the photo I was working on last, but I'm going to hit the plus button. Now I'm going to hit collections and then Alaska. And then here is the photo we want to add. Go ahead and click add. Now it is already kind of a panoramic. It was taken in a 9x16. I'm going to tap on the photo and hit the little rotation arrow. And then now sometimes I will, this is a little hint for the print to size app, and this is iPhone compatible only, this particular app. But I will leave it in the corner as a guide because I know that the border is a good size on that one. So I always kind of leave that there, the previous photo there if it was a keeper. Now, to get this white border, I only want this to be 3 inches tall. So I will stop at 2.7 or 2.75, and that will give me that little white border. Now I want this to be 6 inches long, so I'm going to have to drag this till I hit that 6 or 5.75 or 5.7, and that is going to give me the white border on this edge. So you can see I've got the panoramic photo. Now I can hit crop and I can move it around within here if I want more sky showing or if I want less sky showing. I can move it around with the crop feature. We don't want to lose too much of those beautiful flowers. So now I have my photo ready to print and I can just click the print icon and then send it to my Epson 400 printer there. And this will be the end result. Now, if you are looking for more fun ways to document your travel memories, you definitely want to check out this playlist right here to see what my creative design team friends have to share. Everything's listed in the description box below, and I'll see you soon on YouTube.